Welcome back to the Rock of Truth podcast. Today's episode is presented by Serenity Apparel. In a society constantly telling people who to be and where to go, Serenity Apparel vitalizes a different path, your path. Follow your passion, stay true to your values, and find serenity in who you were created to be. Use code ROCK10 for 10% off your purchases at shopserenityapparel.com. Serenity Apparel, welcome to your escape. So I am here live with former quarterback Jake Sopko. Nick Statterman, our other co-host, was unable to join us today. Jake, how are you doing, man?
Doing okay. I'm recovering from a tough loss this weekend for the Bearcats. But excited to move on to next week. But let's dive into what we saw this past weekend with the unfortunate loss out in Fayetteville.
Yeah, tough one. I think the hardest part about this week's loss was just the fact that I feel like we beat ourselves. I think there's a huge difference between getting beat by a team you feel is better than you and leaving a lot of opportunities out on the field that could have given us a better chance to win the football game. So credit to Arkansas for not obviously making some of the same mistakes we made, and they took full advantage of it. But it's hard for me to kind of sit back and believe that the better team won the football game on Saturday. I don't know where you are at currently.
Yeah, I completely agree. It just felt like we were the better team. I mean, we started off slow, and I was a little worried in the beginning, but people were texting me, calling me, freaking out, and I was just kind of telling everybody, like, relax. Like, they've been here before. This moment isn't too big for them. And I didn't think it was. I thought they played well for the most part. I just think that I like you said, I thought we outplayed them, but I thought we gave the game away. Just so many penalties, really timely penalties. When you look at the stats, we had 10 penalties for 65 yards. Arkansas had 7 penalties for 63 yards. Sounds pretty similar, but it just felt like ours were much more costly. I mean, that same issue that we ran into for years. That's Coach Fickle's such a great coach, and he's done so many great things for this program and won so many games. But for as long as I can remember, that has been such an issue for whatever reason, is the penalties and undisciplined penalties. And it's something that we were able to kind of get by with anyway, because we were just so darn good. But, for the first time in a long time, it really caught up to us.
For someone who has been through a lot of Coach Fickle practices, both as a player and a coach, what does it look like? Does he emphasize, is there like a conversation or an emphasis on, hey, we're really sloppy with penalties, we're going to try and clean it up? Or is it something where, is he such an aggressive defensive mind that he kind of, the way he instills certain character and certain, I think, levels into you guys, I think sometimes like that leads to some of the penalties that happen. You kind of take the good with the bad. I mean, what does that look like? Can you kind of talk on that at all?
Yeah, so his thing is, tough and nasty. And he's okay with penalties, and he'll tell you that. He's okay with penalties. It's just stupid penalties that piss him off. And he's okay with, go playing through the whistle, and sometimes, you dump somebody on their back and give them a little extra something, you might get called on it. He's okay with that. But I just think there has to be more of an emphasis on penalties in general, because it's been such an issue, and again, they've gotten by with it, but I think it really came to bite us in the ass this week.
I look at two huge factors in the game, and I think both come back to us beating ourselves. The first one was when we took over on their 3-yard line off the fumble recovery, and we had 2 straight false starts that went back to, now you're 2nd and 13 from second and goal from the 13-yard line. I think that is as a quarterback, that's a huge momentum killer. I mean, that you take over on the 3, you shouldn't be expecting to get a field goal out of it. You should be expecting to get a touchdown out of it. And I know we missed a good amount of field goals, and that wasn't helpful, but that was one of them. I'd say another one was just, I think some of the big plays we gave up on just missed tackles. I think missed tackles was a problem this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that as much as I did.
100%. And that's something that at times I thought we struggled with last year too, was just wrapping up. But again, it was evident there was so many missed tackles, and it felt like a lot of missed opportunities. Just giving up those extra yards, after contact. We're huge. We're huge, and that goes a long way from getting a stop and to moving the chains. So that was frustrating as well, I thought.
Yeah. Um, the one thing I know we talked about before jumping on here, and I think what we're going to hit on at some point, and you can go ahead and hit on it, is one of the big stats this week was how many big plays we gave up this week. I think last year's team all season only gave up 41 big plays. And we gave up 13 or 14 big plays on Saturday. I don't know the exact number. I know it's one of those two. Can you touch on for our listeners what Coach Fickle describes as big plays and why there's an emphasis on that and why that hurt us on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean those big plays are obviously momentum swings. It was frustrating. Again, they gave up a lot of big plays, and that's something that we harp on. Um, what I believe the statistic was is 12 yards plus on a run was considered an explosive play, and 16 plus on a pass. And I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it was. But again, those are huge momentum shifts. You could feel like you're controlling a game, and then you give up a 40-yard pass, and they get momentum, and it could completely change a game. So that was huge. Like you said, we lost that battle, and you lose that battle, then you lose the turnover battle. I mean, we had two turnovers to their one. The one was in the beginning on that first drive. We looked real good, and Ben throws a deep out route, free access, and I don't really necessarily think it was a bad read. I don't think he really left it inside all that much either. I think the kid just made a good play on it. And then the sack fumble, I think that's something that's just kind of unfortunate. That's one of those things as a quarterback. Everybody likes to get mad, but you can't really control that when you're going back to pass and you get hit like that. So those were two things. Again, with the penalties, I think that really decided the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
But there was some good out of it too, though. I mean, for if you just look at the statistics, Arkansas 45 rushes for 224 yards. I mean, they controlled the ball on the ground, but that's not crazy statistics. We had 31 carries for 113 rushing yards. Both teams were 50% on third down. You'd like to be in a perfect world, like over 60%, over 65% on third down. 50% is not awful, but it's not ideal. Ben Bryant, his first start this season, 26 of 43, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think there were things for the most part. I thought Ben played well. There's a couple throws that he missed that could have been touchdowns, and those are big throws. And he'll be the first person to tell you that he missed them and he wants them back. But I think he did do a lot of good things after the pick. Again, like I was saying, on the deep out route. A couple plays later, he comes back and he makes that same throw with complete confidence. And as a quarterback, that's what you love to see. If you throw a pick on that, you don't want your quarterback to be kind of wavered from that and lose confidence in himself. And he comes right back and makes that same throw and puts it on the money for a first down. So, threw over 300 yards. It was interesting to see how the offense was. 43 attempts. I don't know the statistics on that, but I doubt Dez attempted over 40 passes at any point last season. So it's just interesting to see what they were doing and how they wanted to stretch the ball down the field.
Yeah, I felt like especially for Ben, I think it took him a while to kind of settle into what he was trying to do. I mean, I know from a fan's perspective, right? Like, I know I called you at halftime and I was kind of like, what the hell is going on? And I think, if you get on Twitter, some people and some fans can just be so nasty sometimes, to like the certain players and stuff like that. And I think that's a huge thing to jump into, is taking over for a guy who has the most career wins in the University of Cincinnati's football's history at quarterback, a third round draft pick, right? Someone who probably could have gone in the first or second round if it was, the right moment or the right team at the right time. But, in my opinion, at least, like watching him play, like he settled in the second half and he looked good for the most part in the second half. I know he doesn't have the legs that we're used to with Dez, and I know everyone calling for Evan Prater. Like, I know Evan's got the legs, but I think we have to trust our head football coach who's gotten us to a college football playoff to be able to assess and make a decision on who's going to be the starting quarterback. And I know people want to talk about all the good things that Evan does well, but I think a lot of people aren't probably talking about enough of the things that Evan doesn't do well that lost him the job ultimately to Ben. And I think I just wanted to touch on that just because I think a lot of people, especially even myself, like it's easy to jump to conclusions so quickly and not understand the football mind behind the whole thing and the situation that's going on. I thought he played really well in the second half. I thought he stunk in the first half. But if he could put together two halves like he did in the second half against Arkansas, we win the football game, right? And I hate to break it to everyone, and I know I'm going on a little rant here, but I hate to break it to everyone. We were not going back to the college football playoff this year. Like, if we went undefeated this year, this team is in my opinion drastically underwhelming compared to last year's team. Just watching them last week on Saturday, like they are not as good as last year's football team. And why in the heck we would want to put them in a college football playoff would be crazy to me. So I know I'm going a little bit of rant here, but at some point, I think it might be good for them to lose this first game and move forward here and go 11-1, get to a New Year's Six bowl, right? Let's win a New Year's Six bowl. I think that's the goal now moving forward. But like, it's easy to put blame on one person when there's a collective bunch of issues going on, missed tackles, penalties, beating ourselves, right? I think there's a lot of things going on in that work to cause for the loss, not just outside of like first half quarterback play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I completely agree. Like you said, I mean, those are big shoes to fill. And that was my first experience, being on Twitter during the game, and I had to turn my phone off. I was just like seeing all these tweets and people texting me, and it's just like everybody just, what does LeBron say? Like relax, or no, Aaron Rodgers says like relax. Because he throws a pick on the first drive after he's like 5 for 5, throws a pick, and the kid makes a good play, and everybody's like freaking out. And to your point, you're replacing the third winningest quarterback in college football history. I mean, big shoes to fill. And Ben, obviously he wanted to come out here and get the win. And overall, he played decent. I mean, he can play better, and he knows that. But it wasn't a bad performance, and he didn't waver. His confidence didn't waver at any point. I thought he looked confident. Obviously, like you said, he's out there for a reason. The way that they built this offense and what they want to do, he's the guy who fits it the best. And if they feel differently, then they'll put Evan out there, and Evan, we'll see what Evan can do. I agree. He doesn't have the wheels. I love Benny, and I'll tell him he looks slow as hell out there, dude.
You like when he broke out wide at the goal line and tried to juke back inside, and you're just like, I mean,
Ben had some, like, he had at one point, the COVID year, he had like a 60-yard rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe he's sneaky fast. Benny, bro, you looked slow as hell on that run, but it's all good. I still love you. Yeah, and then for the flip side, KJ Jefferson, I mean, he's solid. I think he's just a solid college quarterback. I mean, he 18 of 26, 223 yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't do a whole lot in the passing game, but he's just efficient, and he didn't really need to. And then, of course, what he does with his legs, I mean, he's just a bully. He's just a guy who moves the chains like a Tim Tebow. Not saying he's Tim Tebow, I'm going to win the Heisman, but like kind of similar in the run game. 18 rushes, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown. I feel like he had really good command out there.
When you have a running back and a quarterback that are that big from a weight and strength standpoint, not wrapping up is probably not the best way to go about beating them. So all things considered, I felt like we did a decent job considering the fact of how many missed tackles we had. Yeah, I mean, what did you see from the defense on Saturday that you might have liked and also didn't like at times?
Thought the wrapping up was an issue. I think that's obvious just to anybody who watched it. I didn't really see too much kind of what they did coverage wise and stuff like that. I wasn't really able to. Sometimes you get a good look at it from the TV. I feel like you don't. That's something you have to break down film to really get a gauge.
Yeah.
What they were trying to do. I thought they had some interesting blitz packages on third down, which is kind of what they've always done. Try to get the quarterback different looks to get him to flip the protection and stuff like that. I thought a couple guys stood out. I thought Shep played well.
I thought he was really good.
thought he played well. He had that one blitz off the edge where he looked solid, and I think Fickle said something about potentially doing that. We call it a cat blitz, corner blitz off the edge. And that's something that I think they could really use him because he's such a big physical presence. Um, there wasn't. I mean, I thought that they were like bend don't break. I mean, there wasn't really they I don't think they were bad. They weren't great. It wasn't the same, lockdown defense that we saw last year, but we knew it was going to look a little bit different because you lost so many guys.
Yeah, no, I thought all in all the secondary did pretty well. I think there was a couple missed tackles in the secondary that we weren't used to because I don't think Sauce and Kobe got enough credit for how good of tacklers they were over their last few seasons here. So obviously not used to that, but I thought Shep played really, really well. I thought uh the older Pace brother played really, really well. I I thought he was. I mean, he needs to be on the field all the time. I mean, he is just a freak. If you watch him, like he just imposes his will on every play.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on him. I thought the transfers stood out. Other than the Ryan Coe, the kicker, missed
Yeah,
two field goals. They need to figure something out at kicker.
but to be honest, to be fair to him, he does have a leg. Like this
Oh
is like
yeah, he's
not
got a hell of a
nothing and nothing against like the pass kickers, right? Like I know at one point they ran out the field goal unit from like they were going to kick from like 53 54 yards. They would have never done that in the past. I think with the situation at hand in that game, obviously the delay of game hurt us and it pushed us back and we had to punt, which is like another
Oh
killer
man,
thing.
killer penalties. Yeah,
You
the
take
more we
yeah,
talk about, the more I remember.
you take away chances in those moments. And they were going to line him up to kick it. So they obviously have the faith that he can make that kick. And I'll say this. I mean, I obviously we got to figure out something for next year and the years after to have someone who can knock down 25, 30-yard chip shots with ease. I think we need to give this kid a few more games before we really judge him because I think we can all tell just watching him, his leg is different from the past guys we've had. So he's going to give us a little bit more, I think, than the guys in the past haven't.
He hit the one from, or he missed 48. He hit the crossbar, or whatever, or maybe not the cross. I can't think of it. The side of the goalpost.
It would have been good. It would have been good from 55.
Yeah, from 60. I mean, it was up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And that is, I think he transferred from Delaware, so he hasn't really played in an atmosphere like that. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not one to judge somebody off week one. So, but what I want to talk about though was the transfers. I thought all the transfers stood out. Obviously, Pace, as you mentioned. I mean, he seemed like he was the best player out there. 12 tackles,
I
one
would
sack,
agree.
3.5 tackles for loss. I thought he stood out every single play that he was on defense, and somebody that he had a decent amount of hype coming into the season, but he really stood out, and that's a huge addition to the defense. Corey Kiner, I thought kind of as the game went on, I thought he looked better and he looked like he was the guy who should be getting the carries. Chuck played well. I thought Chuck had some moments of burst and he looked good. But I thought, I mean, what do you think? I thought Kiner looked good.
I like I might just be talking from a fan's perspective, but to me, like I don't obviously football stuff's different, but just watching from an athlete perspective, like Corey Kiner was the best running back on the field. He runs it's like Jerome, right? Like Jerome ran different. Like I remember watching Jerome, and I mean I thought Michael Warren was an awesome running back, right? But when like Jerome Ford's on a football field and people would ask me like who would you rather have, I always said Ford because just like his next level speed, his strength, like everything all put together, he's just a freak, right? And Corey's the same way. Like you can watch Corey run the football and be like, this dude's different. And not to say the other guys aren't. I think we have a lot of very good, talented backs behind him. And I thought, like you said, Chuck played really well. But to me, watching Corey looks like he should be the number one and he should be the go-to back. I think in I think crucial yardage situations too.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I thought he really stood out, and like you said, I think the guys are all solid. Monty will do well. Chuck Shine, Miles Montgomery. I'm sure he'll get a lot more carries next week. I think we'll see a lot more of the four of them next week, which will be good. And then Nick Martiner, the other one, one catch, 35 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it's a solid debut. One catch, one target, one catch, one touchdown.
Yeah. He was, I mean, from what I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard it too, like when he in spring ball and at higher ground and in summer camp, like he stood out. Like he can go get you a touchdown in crucial moments because of his size and breakout speed. So you can kind of tell he's a really, really talented athlete as well. So I love throwing the ball up to him in space. I thought, like you said, transfers were just really, I feel like they continue. Coach Fickle continues to hit on the right transfers to take over in the right positions in the right spots. So that's obviously always a good thing and exciting when you can, trust that year after year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, I'm not overly concerned. I don't think shit has hit the fan. I think they're going to be okay. Like what we talked about, it was going to be a toss up. It was going to be a dogfight and it was going to be a toss up. And that's exactly what it was. And it is disappointing because it felt like we were the better team and we kind of handed them the game. Um, but I'm not overly concerned about this team. I didn't walk away being like, oh, geez, like it might not be the Bearcats from last year, but it's a solid football team. And it's going to be, it's going to be it's gonna be fun to watch them just to see how they bounce back, man. We haven't lost a regular season game since 2019, so a lot of those guys, all they know is winning. And if they lost, it was in a bowl game, and then you spend 8 months using as motivation and doing whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys bounce back, coming from a week one loss because it's uncharted territory for a lot of them.
Can I say something also? Like, I'm excited because with the Big 12 coming, I know, I'm sure we'll touch on later in the episode, like the 12 team playoff and what that means for us as a program. Like, I think that's a huge thing as a recruiting tool. But heading into the Big 12 and obviously seeing the kind of recruits we had over the last few years and the way our staff's been able to develop talent, I just get jacked up and excited for the future of the program, knowing that you've got a tremendous head coach in charge with a staff that's able to develop talent. And now we might even be able to get higher ranked recruits moving forward, heading into the Big 12 with, in my opinion, a conference recruiting advantage from what we've had in the past. And also, I think some people have been able to say they're not going to make the playoff. Well, all we have to do is win the Big 12 now to get into the playoff. So I'm jacked up and excited for what we're going to be able to kind of take this. I know Fickle's always talked about taking it to the next level, but the more, after watching Saturday and watching them go toe to toe and not be overmatched or overwhelmed by a good SEC team, I think the more I start to believe, obviously dumb me for taking this long, but I'm starting to believe like, all right, we might be able to take it to new levels here in the next few years if we keep and maintain our coach and some of these staff people as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a program with a great foundation, that's going to be successful for a long time, and I truly believe that. I believe that probably after Fickle's second or third season, it was like this is you see the results, and then you see the sustained results, and the way I just we can do a whole another episode someday on like culture and like I mean, I literally saw from Tuberville to him and being a player, then being a coach. I saw both sides of it, like the way he instilled culture into that program and how it completely changed everything from, I mean, the players, the locker room, the support staff, the facilities. Like I could go on and on and on. And I just think because of, what he did with the culture that he built, they're going to be successful for a long time. And he's got a great coaching staff, and he can recruit the hell out of the state of Ohio and now nationally. And yeah, they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's kick it over to Kennesaw State coming back into the NIP this weekend.
The triple option.
The triple option. So we don't need to. I don't think we need to do a whole huge segment on this, but the Kennesaw State Owls, triple option team, as you mentioned, they went 11-2 last year. So this isn't just some run of the mill FCS team. I mean, they're pretty solid. They lost last week to a good Sanford team, 27-17. The Bearcats open up as 28-point favorites. They currently have the second longest home game winning streak in the country. They've won 27 straight at Nippert. And expect them to move it to 28 after this weekend. What are your thoughts?
We'll see. I don't I know I'm 100% confident we're going to win the football game, right? And I don't need to knock on wood. I don't think I'm going to jinx it, but I do think, like, from a spread standpoint, 28 points is a lot, and when you're playing against a triple option, it tends to slow. I think it speeds up the game because you're running the football so much, the clock's winding down, and I think also sometimes it can be difficult uh to stop, and sometimes it allows for a few weird big plays that you don't really expect. Whether it's like them dropping back to pass on a random play. So we'll see. I know we're gonna win. 20, I would expect us to win by anywhere from like 20 to 35, in that range. So it's just I don't know. I would stay away from it betting wise, but if you want to hammer Bearcats money line, go for it.
I completely agree. I think just the triple option's weird. And first off, if you're running the triple option in 2022, then you're not cool. You're lame. To use my PG dictionary words or whatever you want to say. But 28 points, yeah, I don't like the spread. If I'm betting on it, I'm not going to touch the spread just because, like you said, I mean, you get down to the fourth quarter and you want to get some guys in the game that really don't have much playing experience. And, they're guys that are running scout team all week and they're not prepped to go against the triple option. So you got to get thrown for a loop and you get some BS touchdowns there and late. So I feel confident that the Bearcats are going to get the dub. Excited to see Nip alive and everybody back. I'm sure the place is going to be through the roof. Are you going to the game?
I am. We'll be tailgating above University Garage. We'll be getting after it. I'm sure there'll be some fellow Rock of Truth members there, hopefully. You never know with Statty, but hopefully he's there. But we're gonna be tailgating. I'll be there. I'm hoping I can stay the whole game. Me, I usually stay for the entire game, but my basketball coach from high school is he's gonna be retiring, and they are I probably shouldn't be saying this. I'm hoping that I think it's a surprise retirement party, but I'm not expecting him to be listening to our podcast. So I'm hoping he doesn't hear this. So, hey, coach, if you hear this, you didn't hear it from me. So
we can probably edit it out if you want us to.
Maybe. I'm hoping he doesn't listen. I would be shocked if my high school basketball coach listened to our Bearcat podcast.
Well, I hope he does. And if you are, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be a good opportunity to get in front of the fans back at home. Get some young guys some playing time. Hopefully, if all goes well, you have your backups and third stringers in there for majority of the second half. Get them some playing experience and get the dub and move out of that week healthy. Speaking of the tailgate, Jerry Gate, we love Jerry Gate. What is there like a spread that we decided what's on the menu? Are you just burgers and dogs, or you guys switch it up by the week, or like
this
what can we
week?
expect
This
from
week,
the tailgate?
yeah, Adriatico's Pizza this week and Adriatico's Wings. So we're gonna go with the double combo of wings and pizza, and then everyone that's involved, brings their appetizers and desserts and stuff like that. This year we're really focused on kind of changing up maybe some music selection. In the past, the music has been, in my opinion, the music was fine, but some people are calling for just maybe a few new tunes here and there, and maybe some old tunes as well to accommodate to our crowd. So that's one of our big focuses this year. And just, I think it's going to be different this year than it was last year. There was so much buzz with how many games they won. So this season's definitely, like, for me, I've been going since I was a little boy. So, like, obviously I'm going to be at every game, hopefully, that I can be. I might, maybe I think I have to miss one because I got to officiate a wedding. But outside of that, I'll be at every other game. I plan on coming down to UCF and visiting you. So, there's going to be a lot of games I'm at. But I know hopefully we go 11-1, right? But, like, I'm hoping the crowd stays loyal and stays passionate even through maybe a few losses this season, just with the Big 12 coming up and where we're trying to take this program. I know it's about the players and the coaches, but me and you, we want to stay on the train too and be a part of it as well. So trying to just be the best fans we can be, show up, support, be loud, wear whatever theme they tell us to wear and get after it at Jerry Gate,
I absolutely love that. And I loved everything you said, but just to briefly touch on the music selection. So I have a couple of different playlists that I can help you out with to really, I love that kind of stuff. So, but if you had to come out one song hot, I mean, first song, I hate to put you on the spot like this, but if, everybody shows up, the DJ press play, what's your first song to get the people of Jerry Gate rolling? Set the vibe.
Oh, you know what I would really actually go with? Like first song, obviously, like I love Pump It Up, like everyone else. I love Thunderstruck, but the one song I think that just gets the party going. It's not too electric, but it's an electric enough where like it gets the vibes going.
We want to say at the same time. Let's see if we're on the same.
Okay.
I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll both just
Okay.
say with how. Are you ready?
3,
2,
2, 1.
Who let the dogs
Jump.
out? Baja, man.
Oh no, that's a good one. That's a good one, but it would be on my playlist. But Jump by Van Halen.
I love that. Great intro.
You
All-time
can't
intro.
go wrong with Jump or Van Halen.
That's an all-time intro.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I love that little segment we did there on Jerry Gate. We're definitely going to get the update next week and talk more about it. Briefly, just recap the college football weekend. What did you see? Any little anecdotes you want to drop on any of the games you watched, or what else is going on in the college football world?
I absolutely hated watching the SEC be so dominant in week 1. I mean, I got a little bit of joy out of watching Brian Kelly lose to Florida State. I thought that was hilarious and that was fun for all of us Bearcat fans. But ultimately, I think obviously the SEC is the best conference in college football, in my opinion. I think there's a huge gap, though, between Alabama and Georgia and everyone else, including the rest of the SEC. And I will say, I'm not a Buckeye. I don't like the Buckeyes, but I'm unbiased. And I would say, like, the Buckeyes finding a defense. And I don't know how good Notre Dame's offense is, but last year, that Ohio State defense, it didn't matter who they were playing. They were giving up 30 on any given night. They are obviously better under Coach Knowles. And they, how they work. They'll get better throughout the season. And by if they're in the college football playoff at the end of the year, they could beat Georgia and Bama. But outside of those three, no one else could touch any of those three, in my opinion, by season's end. I mean, like, that's why I was saying earlier to you, like, Bearcat fans, like, let's wait another couple of years before we try and get back, because we would get smoked by those three this year. And that's not a bad thing, because so would the rest of the country. So I think we're going to be in for a lot of lopsided scores when those three teams are playing. Those would kind of be my main takeaways from the weekend. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I sat in my recliner and had a beer and watched a shit ton of college football for the first time in a long time.
What kind of beer?
I'm a high noon guy.
Okay. So
Noon.
Not a beer.
Yeah. Well, the gluten thing, it's hard to. Thursday night, I had a glass of bourbon on the rocks because I'm like that. And then on the weekend, I don't do that on the weekend. So I drank a couple of high noons. Sat at the pool at my dad's house. Shout out Steve. That was fun. But watched a lot of college football. Thursday night, the backyard brawl, West Virginia Pitt. That game was electric. Really back and forth. Lost some money on that. Penn State, Purdue. Purdue blew it. Lost some money on that. What else? North Carolina, Appalachian State. No defense. Appalachian State blew it. Gave up like 28 unanswered points. Lost some money on that. There's a common theme here you can see of
you thought about retiring, didn't you?
I went 0 for 8 on my bets and won, which is thankfully I don't bet a whole lot, but it was still disappointing. But to talk actual college football, like Georgia, the beat down 49-3 on Oregon. I mean, they looked like they could be better than they were last year. Stetson Bennett went from like a facilitator to a gamer real fast. So we'll see. I don't know if Oregon's that bad or if Georgia's just real. I think Georgia's just that good.
I do too.
Alabama, Bryce Young ran for like 100 yards or something, which he didn't do at all last season. So now he can run too. So that's exciting. Ohio State, like you said, they got a defense now. I was a little underwhelmed with their offense, but maybe Notre Dame's just better than I gave them credit for. Um, yeah, I watched a lot of,
They'll figure it out too.
and then the
They got
Florida,
so much talent and playmakers.
yeah, and then the other one I really tuned into was the Florida Utah game, which was a great game to watch. And like I was telling you before we hopped on here, I'm all aboard the Anthony Richardson Heisman
Tell
train.
everyone your hot take.
That he's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, tell everyone. Just get it on paper.
Yeah, Florida Gators, Anthony Richardson, number 15, AR-15. I know he doesn't go by that anymore because it's bad news bears, but he's going to win the Heisman. He's electric. He's
Yeah,
fun to watch.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good college football. The LSU game was just insane. I mean, like there was so many
Good game after good game after good game this week.
exactly, dude. That's why you love college football. I know it's, and I'm a big NFL guy. I really am. I probably enjoy NFL more because it's just like the highest quality of the product. But you can't match college football. I mean, just they're crazy. Shit happens that just doesn't happen in the NFL. I mean,
Well, even just the passion, right? Like college football, the passion, the tailgating, the fans, right? Like, everything all in one, the mascots, the names, the coaches, like we fall in love with these kids and they're, only 18 years old sometimes 21, 22. They're so young and we just fall in love with the names and the coaches and the traditions. And it just, there's something so cool about it outside of even football itself that I think hard to describe unless you're really a part of it or been a part of it for most of your life.
exactly, dude. It's just the pageantry of college football. I mean, it's special.
Yeah.
It's special. All right, we'll wrap up with our picks. Like I said,
Struggled last week.
everybody lost. We all lost. You didn't hit on what was it, NC State?
I didn't hit on NC State or Houston. What'd you miss on?
Ohio State -17.
Statty missed too.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but he missed. And like I said, I didn't hit one bet, so we'll give our picks, but again, take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't
Well,
advise
hold up. I would like to tell our listeners right now, we plan on being better. Like we made some mistakes last week in our picks. First week, right? It's like the Bearcats in the first half against Arkansas. Maybe some jitters going on with us with our picks. I'm a lot more confident in my picks this week. And I just, in Tim Tebow fashion, I want the fans and the listeners of Rock of Truth to know, like, I promise you we're going to be better the rest of this year, right? Like this is kind of like last week was kind of like our Ole Miss loss. And now we're going to kind of give the speech like we're not going to lose another game moving forward. And so you give your picks, I'll give my picks, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you'll never see another person work harder to win $10 on a bet
Then you will.
than I will for the next 14 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't do a whole lot of research because like it doesn't really matter, I feel like, for me at this point, but I'm gonna go with Baylor versus BYU in Provo over 53.5. I think that's going to be a great game, and 53.5 seems a little bit low.
You're hammering the over.
Hammering the over. They both put up a lot of points this weekend. They played inferior opponents, but I think it just sounds exciting to me, and betting the under is lame.
Yeah, I'm gonna make two bets here, just two bets. And I'm gonna try and do my best here. My first one's gonna be, I think Arkansas is gonna beat South Carolina, but what I'm gonna bet is that South Carolina covers the 8 points. I think it's gonna be a less than one score game. I know people hate to hear this. I don't really think Arkansas is as good as their ranking shows. I think they're a top 25 football team, but I think they're going to win in a close game. So South Carolina to cover 8 points as 8-point dogs. And then Kentucky money line as the underdog. Kentucky money line against your boy, Anthony Richardson and the Florida Gators, the Kentucky Wildcats. after a slow first half against the Miami Redhawks, they're going to bounce back this week and beat the Gators. They've had the Gators number the last, over the last 3-4 years. I think they've won like twice. So I'm taking the Wildcats, and I'm taking South Carolina spread. So those are my 2 bets for the week.
I like that. I don't like that because I'm a big Florida Gator fan now.
Yeah.
After watching last week, but I'll take that, and I'll throw in one more for Statty. He didn't ask me to say this, but I had another one, so I'm just gonna put this one on Statty.
This is Statty's pick.
This is Statty's pick. This is my pick, but it's for Statty.
Statty's pick of the week. Give it to us.
Statty's pick of the week is North Carolina versus Georgia State over 64.5.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know anything about Georgia State, but I've watched 2 games of North Carolina, and they put up a lot of points. Their quarterback, Brandon May or something.
And they give up a lot of points.
They give up a lot of points. They don't play defense, and they put up a lot of points. So if they can drop another 50 points, and Georgia State can put up 2 touchdowns and a field goal, that hits.
Okay.
That hit. I believe my math's probably wrong, but that's what we got.
Love it.
So that's all I had. Do you have anything else that you want?
I got nothing else, man. Go Cats. Let's get ourselves a win here. Yeah, let's get back on the, best thing about being 0-1 is the chance to go 1-1. So we just got 1 week at a time here. We'll start this week. We'll move to next week after the win on Saturday.
Exactly. We'll be back next week. Statty will be back. Hopefully we're talking after a Bearcats bounce back win, and hopefully we have another guest on. We've talked about it, but we'll try to get on a player next week. I think that would be fun to interview and add that in here. But yeah, if you stuck around this long, thanks for listening, and see you next week.
All right. Hey, Sapi.
Yeah.
Have a great week, brother. Let's get a win.
Yeah, go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats.
All right, brother.
See you, man.